Hello everyone, it's Everything Sam or Sympho-Rider here. Here I'm going to be starting a new series with a good friend of mine. Introduce yourself.
Hello, my name is Immortal.
During the big gap while we were waiting for the second half of season 8, the two of us had been rewatching a couple episodes together, and then as we were commentating on them, we realized, you know what, we could make this a series. So, the two of us are going to essentially watch an episode, specifically the animation, and break down what we like about it, as well as stuff like mini errors here and there, small details you may have missed on your first watch or something like that. So...
And then afterwards... Oh, my bad.
No, that's fine.
Yeah. And then after that, we're gonna quickly go over some other stuff, like what we thought of the voice acting and sound design.
Yeah, while we may be biased towards some episodes, obviously, for the most part, this analysis will not be taking the verdicts into account. And yes, we are aware of the fact how the animation is not supposed to represent how the fight would go down. We're just talking about, well, this is cool, or it's like, they could have also done this in the animation or something like that. Again, we both do like Death Battle. This isn't like pot shots or anything. We're just tossing on our own 2 cents.
Right.
So, for the first episode, since it just recently started back up again, we will be taking a look at Batman vs. Iron Man. Batman's 4th Death Battle for some reason.
And at least Iron Man's 2nd.
Yeah, Iron Man's good too. Anyways, let us begin with the episode. So, for obvious reasons, we're going to be pausing as we go on. And another thing that's pretty blatantly obvious, there will be spoilers for this episode, so go watch the episode first before you watch this video. Okay? Anyways, let's begin. Okay, starting off. The fact that the 3D background, this entire watchtower is fully rendered, it's absolutely beautiful. The amount of detail they put into this thing, it's incredible.
Yeah, just from a standstill from this whole scene, it genuinely looks really good. The Earth, the watchtower, it looks really, really good.
Yeah, and going on, we see the interior. What's amazing is just how much detail there is for the interior. It looks like a battleground for some kind of video game. It's incredible just how much detail they put into this.
Yes, the amount of detail is absolutely crazy. Seriously, this could be from a AAA video game and we would have no idea.
Death Battle animators should probably get to do some video game stuff at some point. We got a Death Battle board game, why not give us a Death Battle video game? I mean, that would be a licensing nightmare, but...
You just make it an online Flash game.
Yeah.
Oh wait, Flash isn't a thing. Okay.
Oops. Anyways, going on.
Hey, bats! Now, I can respect a man with a healthy sense of paranoia and billions to spare, but Steve and Nat are really up my ass about this.
Okay, so the pan shot obviously is hidden by transition, which is, while it's kind of obvious, it is pretty clever since Bruce and Tony don't have sprites of them walking forward and backwards. They only have side-to-side sprites since these sprites are based on fighting games.
Yeah, and I think one of my first issues comes here. I would have really liked it if they had the background change, so it isn't just this control panel. It switches from Tony looking at Batman, who has this behind him,
and
but then it switches to Bats with Tony.
Spots.
Yeah.
Take the watchtower offline now, Bruce.
Again, there's minimal detail here, which kind of works, but I'm kind of irritated they didn't animate the mouth. But then again, the sprite they're using, I believe, is from an Iron Man armor. It was from one of the Marvel vs. Capcom games, I believe. And it was back when Tony's armors didn't have the mouth design.
I believe it's from Marvel vs. Capcom 2.
Yeah. Anyways, going on.
You don't want this fight, Tony.
Though they do give us like the other perspective shot, and like the smoke effects back there are really good.
It'll be the biggest mistake of your
Yeah.
life.
Oh, and here's an issue. So Tony blasts, but he doesn't actually hit anything. He just blasts a slight area in front of him, and like you could have shown like the beam passing past Batman to show he dodged it or something, but no, he doesn't. It just he just like blasts a little bit in front of him and doesn't hit anything.
It's more so like he's trying to scare Tony, if anything.
Yeah, maybe it could work as an intimidation tactic, but still. And then this is a really good tracking shot of Bruce, and it just shows how much they rendered for this battleground. So,
yeah, like
the issue with how much they rendered for this battleground, we'll get into that a little later.
Yeah.
And oh, this is my favorite part of the episode.
Seriously, Bats, I figured out hacking in the 2nd grade. How do you think I got in here?
Okay, so I mentioned this a couple of times to a few friends, and Immortal as well. But if you notice, the tracking shot doesn't make a complete rotation. So with this perspective, this means Tony went the long way around just to get the drop on Bruce. It's hilarious. It's also just something Iron Man would just do.
It's probably one of the most disrespectful things Tony does in this episode.
And yeah, and oh, I think we get to one of the first animation errors World pointed out.
Yeah. Here, the head of Batman the head of Batman is a different shade of black to the body, as you can see on the gloves, cape, and crotch region. The part on the headpiece is more of a gray, if anything, while the others is just very dark black.
Yeah, the head is a normal shading, while the rest of the body is a slightly darker shade.
Mm-hmm. And there's one frame where the head matches.
I can definitely slow that down. Like, if you look carefully.
Yeah.
You'd see it for like a brief second where Bruce is just all dark colors this time. Like, I'll just click like this. And there, you probably saw it for like half a second. Yeah, Bruce was all dark colors, and the moment Tony lets go, he becomes all brighter colors again.
Yeah. It's ultimately a minor thing, but it's still something I noticed.
Yeah, like you won't really notice it, but it's just like there.
Mm-hmm.
And if you notice, it's very hard to see, but that there's a small bit of red at the beginning to show the batarang melting, I believe. And as you see from the blood spot, Bruce actually does get hit by the beam. And like, if there's a bit of red here, you can see him holding onto his wound. That's pretty decent.
Yeah.
And here's another interesting transition. Again, Bruce and Tony don't have many sprites that have them like walking forwards or backwards from the camera. So they have Bruce run off and then back onto the screen so they don't have to like, you know, add a bunch of sprites of him turning around or something.
Honestly, a pretty clever way to
Really, Bruce? This sticks? I thought we were grown-ups here.
Now, a minor thing. I'm not the biggest fan of the way Tony moves, both in when he fired his repulsor blast and just there.
Yeah, you see, Immortal's not a big fan of the whole puppet animation style, which is completely understandable. It works for a lot of characters, but because Bruce and Tony's sprites are already existing, and they have like their sprite sheets I believe are pretty huge. So like they made it so that each one of Tony's joints, like his arms, chest, and head, are all different. I believe like different parts that are animated.
Really, Bruce?
So it's kind of like, yeah, it's very odd to explain it. But despite the fact that you could argue it's smoothly animated, it also just feels weirdly janky.
If I can describe it, and this may sound weird, it feels like it's a bit over-animated, like they were putting too much movement into the scene.
Yeah, honestly, they didn't, they could have, like, they didn't have to animate Tony's arms or anything. I believe his head they could have just stuck with the head looking around and him just in his default standing pose from the Marvel vs. Capcom games, that would have worked fine too.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a minor animation error. Tony's eye scanners have like the same color as his repulsor blast here, but when we get to the hand drawn, they're completely white. That's again minor thing, but still.
Ready when you are.
And this is a really, really cool shot.
It
Just
is.
the Hellbat
It's
armor
really
towering
good.
over Iron Man is amazing. There's a small weird yellow thing in the corner, which I'm going to assume is just a light from the background, but we'll let it slide.
And then right after this, they're blue again.
And like, this is an amazing shot perspective-wise.
Friday, I need Soul's Hammer online pronto. Match my coordinates. I'll try to.
And just Tony's reaction here when he sees what Bruce is about to do. He freaking slams the watchtower into him. That's just hilarious.
I love that kind of thing where they just hit the other opponent with something really fuck off big.
Like, another example I could bring is like Hulk just tearing up a chunk of the ground to like slam Broly in the previous episode, or in another previous Hulk episode, Hulk using the cars as boxing gloves. Like,
Yeah, and while in Goku vs. Superman, well, not that whole super big, I do like it when Superman just hits Goku with the lamppost.
And not
Just using the environment as a weapon,
yeah,
I do
it's
like.
a real creative thing they can do. And to be fair, Bruce did listen to Tony. He took the watchtower down.
Yeah, that's true.
And I will say this, I'll show it when we get down to it later, but this is a really cool high-speed shot. Oh, the poor car.
Okay, pause there. I'm pretty sure that's a reference to Bruce's first episode, because
In his fight with
something similar
Spider-Man,
happens.
because a running gag of the Spider-Man 2D episodes is, I believe, someone lands on a car.
They get thrown onto a car and that car explodes.
Yeah.
It happens in
It's the same, because they use
Bruce's
it,
first episode.
they used it in Batman vs. Spider-Man and Batman vs. Spider-Man 2099. And it's the same car, it's the one from Street Fighter 2.
Just a cool detail I noticed
Yeah.
that others might not have
And
picked
I will
up
say,
on.
like, going back a little bit, I really do like the high speed, like, of them falling to orbit, of just Bruce absolutely pummeling the hell out of Tony. That's really cool. And probably the best exchange in the episode.
Respect.
This is actually... I know we're kind of jumping the gun here, but this is something I actually really wanted from the fight. Like, just this exchange, and I'm glad it happened.
Yeah, personally, I believe the two of us said that well, it would have been better like, as a finisher lines or something, but this works well too, because we'll explain in a bit. Before we do, the Hellbat armor, I believe, is custom. I don't think we have any pre-existing sprites for it, and it's, like, really, really good. Like, look at this thing.
Yes, I do believe it is entirely custom.
Yeah. And, like, going back, this is, like, really smooth. And tearing apart the armor, that's great. And the neck crack, too. That is really well done.
It is.
And then, as we talked about, this exchange.
Respect. I am Batman.
And I am Iron Man.
Okay, before we talk about this, there's something, a small thing that kind of threw me off. Because when Bruce actually lifts up the armor, I honestly expected him to pull a Bane and try and like snap Tony in half via you know, the backbreaker style.
I was honestly expecting
Yeah.
something like that too.
Because the way it's like perspective-wise, you'd think he'd like break the armor over his knee or something, but what we got was good too, because again, the armor breaking apart, that's really well done, especially since they animated like the broken parts of the armor, as you can like see from the tears. You can see the gray wiring.
Yeah.
That's really well done.
I'm pretty sure the gray wiring itself is custom.
Yeah,
because the sprites don't have those.
for obvious reasons, they didn't have sprites of Tony falling apart. Since this, I believe this was before Tony started controlling his armors remotely. And speaking of his armors,
Iron Man.
this is a really cool shot of Tony and all of his armors. That it's just incredible.
Oh yeah, it is. Although this shot of Tony in the center does look awkward.
Yeah,
but now it looked good.
To be fair, that was like mid-animation of him getting up, so you can be a little forgivable for that.
Yeah.
I've got a suit for everything, Bats, including busting
Okay, here,
gods
this
like
is also
you.
custom, and I really like it.
The Godbuster doesn't have any existing sprites, so it's like incredibly well done.
But you can still see parts of the original Marvel vs. Capcom 2 sprites, more specifically in his right arm, not the one pointing, the one he has pulled back.
Yeah, if you notice, like, it's a different design-wise. It's understandable why, because, you know, it's all yellow and red, you could get confused for it, but yeah.
Still a good use of resources.
Yeah, and probably the coolest bit in the episode. In a swarm of bats, the Iron Man armors versus Batman, and just Batman slaughtering each and every one of the armors. That's incredible.
And also, if you notice there was a brief shot where one of the Iron Man armors fired at bats.
Like
through
right
another
here.
armor.
He's firing at Batman, but he misses and shoots another one instead. That's really cool.
Yeah. Hard to notice, it's great.
And he throws him into another one, and I think this will probably be the shot of the episode. The Hellbat versus the Godbuster in the deadlock. Like, this is really cool. And
Bust this.
took him a while to actually make the comeback, but that was really cool.
Yeah, it really is. It's also like a good... Fuck, I don't know the word. It's a good payoff, I think, is the right word.
Yeah, and like, going back, like, the hands-on for the Hellbat is, I'd argue, is even better in this shot.
Bust this.
It's arguably more simple, but I just like how just brutal. You can feel the punch. It's
it's more impactful than.
okay.
No, I'll save that. I'll save it.
I'll save it. You save it, yeah. And we get the classic Beam-O-War style. Like, another small detail I don't think you noticed, but even before, like, Bruce's ray starts overpowering, you can kind of tell it will, because if you look, the head of Bruce's blast is larger than Tony's.
Yeah.
And Tony just gets blasted straight through several building blocks. Now, this is really cool, because, you know, they're all shaped like a bat, because for some, I don't understand how a laser can be shaped like the bat symbol, but... I've learned to stop questioning
God damn it, they did it.
Batman can do.
Yeah. No, okay. The sprite for Tony, I actually don't mind it.
Yeah,
like
usually human sprites for the like Marvel and DC characters would look kinda off, but Tony's looks pretty fine, honestly. I believe it came from an already existing one made by a fan, and they just touched it up here and there. So instead of like making an original one, they just fixed something already. Also, Bruce, this looks really janky. His head's tilted down and his arm's a little too high up there.
Yeah, I'm just trying this pose that makes me feel really uncomfortable.
I'm trying it right now. It's not possible. Okay, and here's a little thing that annoys me. When Bruce throws his first punch, he's not actually hitting Tony. You can see it here. He's not actually hitting him. Like, if we actually got like more of a hit spark or something, that would work. But he doesn't actually hit Tony in this shot.
Had to divert some power.
I mean, here it's kind of to be expected.
Oh, you could possibly. It's odd because him throwing the punch first. Maybe you could argue it's just like a couple of seconds foreshadowing to how Tony had hacked the Hellbat armor. If that's the case, why did Tony bring up his armor to defend himself? Did he? You could argue. I think the argument is that he did that just in case his hacking failed. And there's another small thing. In the bottom left corner, you can see unit Hellbat hacked. But if you actually pay attention a little more, you can in previous shots of Tony's vision, you can actually see the like progress bar going up for the hacking. So it's not like out of nowhere. It's a mini detail that you can see.
And actually, I want to say something. In the original preview, when we first saw this HUD, We initially thought it was Bruce's because it said Hellbat.
Yeah.
But now, throughout the fight, we can see that it's Tony's.
Yeah. Anyways, going back on the episode.
Second grade. Friday, fire the hammer!
All details. Right out before the blast. I really like how Bruce is like struggling to move within the Hellbat armor before he gets blasted. That's great.
Yeah.
And you can see emotions animated on Tony of panicking as his armor's failing. That's really well done.
Yeah, I think it actually looks good.
I believe Immortal said this before. He's not a fan of like how they put an existing sprite, but then put another layer for like their eyes and mouth.
Like, okay, how I explained it was they have the existing sprites, and each pixel is the same size. But then to make better emotions for the characters, they add another layer with sprites that don't match the pixels. So, like, say for Bruce here, they give him, like, it's easier seen in the beginning.
Like this.
Like
but
here.
This is a little different because I believe they actually just removed Bruce's head from the original sprite and replaced it with, like, this entirely new drawn bit. So, arguably, that's a little more excusable since they're putting it from scratch.
Yeah, but at the beginning,
at the beginning,
when Bruce is on the computer,
had this issue here and there.
Mm-hmm.
And like going on here.
Holy shit!
No more armors, Tony. Just
like here. This is the kind of animation I want for talking, aside from just plastering another mouth over their static face.
Sprite is what he's saying, not like adding a smaller mouth on a jaw that doesn't move.
Yeah.
Man to man.
Well, man to genius billionaire playboy.
Okay, interesting how Tony gets hit and he bleeds, but he doesn't have like the blood on his face afterwards. Also, I find it funny that what Tony was saying could also apply to Bruce.
Yeah.
It's great. But yeah, we got a bit of hand-to-hand here, and my problem is that I wish Tony put up a little more of a fight. Because, like all he really does is, like, just get his arm broken. I think he, like, dodges one of Bruce's hits.
To man.
Like...
Well, man to genius billionaire playboy.
Like, here, I think that's... I don't really know what he did there, but he did kinda dodge it. Oh,
but
and
at the same time, I didn't...
Yeah. Like, because Tony they have stated in the analysis that he had been trained as well. So maybe him actually hitting Bruce with a punch before Bruce breaks his arm would make things a little more interesting or something like that. Yeah, maybe the punch doesn't do much since Tony can't, since Bruce is in his normal bat suit and Tony's not using anything. So, like, it could show, like, the panic a little more, you know?
Yeah.
Oh, and there's a really small detail, but when Tony's, like, bragging about, like, explaining what he is, looks at his chest, he fixes his collar almost as if he's, like, fixing a tie that's not there. It's hilarious.
Yeah.
It's just something you do, and then just Bruce is just having none of it before he slugs him in the face. Like, interestingly, the blood here, I don't believe it's, like, off at all. Like, it's pretty, it's all on the arm sprite, and it's pretty well done.
Yeah.
And just, then to what Tony says right before the kill.
Maybe just one more.
And this is a really smoothly animated of the armor appearing on Bruce. And I really like how another detail is, like, you can see the ears of the bat cowl slightly fold as the armor covers him. Like, that's, see that? They're, like, janky here and there. That's a really, really neat detail that they went all out to do.
Yeah, that I really like when they do stuff like that. However minor it is, it's still really good.
Yeah.
The nano armor. Snuck it into your body back on the watchtower.
And if you pay attention, Tony does land... like, remember when Tony burns through the wall and grabs Bruce? That's probably when he did it.
Yeah.
So it's not like out of nowhere. Like, This is, I'd argue it's like Jotaro versus Kenshiro, but a lot better, because in Jotaro versus Kenshiro's case, you can't tell that the killing blow, you can't tell that Kenshiro touched Jotaro until we see a replay of it and it goes into greater detail. Here, it's a lot more reasonable, because you do remember Tony landing a hit on Bruce.
Friday.
Also a minor continuity error. Bruce got hit at the beginning of the fight on his side, and he's even clutching that when he runs off. Here, it's just gone.
I'd maybe argue that I actually don't have an explanation for that. I think maybe, I don't know. I think of something, but I don't remember like too much stuff about Batman. Maybe there's a spare Batsuit inside the Hellbat or something. I don't know.
Yeah,
but then arguably, that's actually another thing. When Bruce pops out of the Hellbat, he's completely fine, despite, the Hellbat being very dangerous to him, draining him of his metabolism and life force. So maybe
it's likely,
like he's perfectly fine, like in 100% good condition when he hopped out. Like maybe him, I don't know, like something like burn marks here and there would have made it a little more interesting that way.
I think it likely has something to do with the time he spent in the Batsuit, because it wasn't very long.
Yeah, this was like, he was in the Hellbat for like around 2 minutes for this animation.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's that. Because like 2 minutes wouldn't be that long, arguably.
Yeah, so it's reasonable to assume it didn't put that much on him.
Then you could also argue that Tony hacking into it actually kind of saved Bruce there.
Just locking it up, freezing it, powering it off.
And also, I like how the blood on Tony's arm changed to, like, instead of the splotch, now it's dripping down because, a bit of time has passed. That's a nice little detail.
Definitely. Okay. I want to say something.
Yeah?
I love how there's still flesh on him.
Yeah. That's really nice. Like, you can see, like, the bit of splotches of flesh here and there. It's really neat detail. Also, another thing, I know we said we're gonna get into sound design afterwards, but right as Bruce is yelling,
initiate
like, if you listen carefully, like, the moment, like, listen, oh, whoops, I zoomed in. Anyways, if you listen carefully, like, the moment the faceplate closes in, it has the voice filter on. That's a really neat attention to detail.
Yeah, it really is.
And then, boom.
Friday, I could really use a drink.
Okay, this is a weird thing. The fight just ends to black right there as the music finishes out. So I'm going to assume they just didn't animate enough or something. Like, maybe they could have done a fading shot, or like, I don't know, Tony looking at Bruce's, like, smoking skeleton or something, but I guess they just ran out of time.
Well, he did. He just then wanted to get a drink. Like, you can see him look.
Yeah, no, what I'm thinking was, like, a back shot of Tony. Like, you can see Tony's back as he's looking at the skeleton or something.
Yeah, but then I think that skeleton sprite might be custom?
Yeah, I think that's...
I'm not sure.
Maybe, because then again, skeletons aren't, like, unique or anything. They could have maybe, I don't know, taken that from a background of a 2D game or something like that. But yeah.
Yeah.
And then, yeah. So, yeah, that was... I'm just gonna... As before we talk, I'm gonna, like, pause it on, like, a really good frame. Where's I'm gonna find... You know what, let's stick with this.
Okay.
Yeah, so going on, like, first off, sound design-wise, this was, like, surprisingly really good. Like, I could hear, like, all the hits and feel them.
Here is my problem with the hits. Both their suits are made of some sort of metal.
Yeah.
Well, not the standard Batsuit. The Hellbat, most likely. And Tony's, definitely. But when they clash, especially like when Bruce is beating Tony down onto Earth, you don't hear anything like metal hitting metal.
Yeah, you hear just... yeah, that's actually another thing. Like, you can hear the hits, but sometimes the hits don't really, like work. Like when Bruce is like hitting down at Tony, you can like, you know what, I'll actually go back and play the clip. Let me just, like, right before, I think it's like right here, like. Yeah, like those aren't like clangs you'd expect. No, those are meaty hits that you'd like expect from, like, I don't know, like Superman versus or Captain Marvel or something like that. Not armor.
Yeah, definitely. And it also comes into play during the whole boss of this scene, which,
to be fair,
while
I
it doesn't
argue
have
that
the
one
sound
works
design,
a little more since, you know, Bruce is punting with like all that energy. I think you could argue that one works a little more. But yeah, there's not a lot of like clanking noises overall. It's just like the sound design's good, but a good chunk of it doesn't like completely match, is what you could say.
And hey, at the very least, I can now say this: the hits have more impact than Hulk vs. Broly's hits.
Yeah, they do, and that's hilariously depressing.
Yeah.
And as for voice acting this time around, so let's talk about the bigger one at the moment, Regan Murdoch as Iron Man. Now, back in season 2, they actually got Chuck Huber to voice Iron Man, who is more famous for roles such as, I believe, Hiei in Yu Yu Hakusho and Android 17 in Dragon Ball. Now, obviously,
really?
So they couldn't get him back this time, but I'd argue Regan does a pretty good Iron Man here. What do you think?
I actually really like his Iron Man voice, and
Yeah,
his delivery of the lines. Like,
yeah, he's just
my
like,
favorite line from this. My favorite. Oh, sorry for cutting you off.
No, go on.
My favorite line from this is not one of Tony's iconic lines. It's when he says, "Oh shit."
Yeah, like
It's the delivery.
like,
The delivery of that I love.
Yeah, because it's I guess you could argue with like Tony's like whole like image thing. Like he has like this whole cocky image around him, and like you can hear he's talking, putting a lot of emphasis into a lot of his like earlier lines, like this shtick. I thought we were grown-ups here. Like you could tell like Tony was just doing a little too much there. But that's
yeah, you can definitely hear
like, the oh shit there. That was completely natural. That showed. You could argue Tony's more vulnerable side or something, you know?
Yeah.
As for
I love how he carries.
Yeah, go on.
I love how he carries. I'm sorry. I also love how he carries a more cocky attitude to him. And as the fight goes on, that kind of just keeps dwindling.
Yeah.
Until it rises back when he hacks the Batsuit, where he's like, again, second grade.
Yeah, that's great.
But then.
And as for Batman voice actor, we had Gianni Matragano. Matragano. If I pronounced it wrong, I apologize. Who's actually had several roles on Death Battle previously. He voiced Lex. He actually voiced Lex in both of his episodes, as well as Sweet Tooth in Joker vs. Sweet Tooth, and Nathan Drake in Lara Croft vs. Nathan Drake. Now, can we talk about the irony of the fact that he previously voiced Lex? Because Lex took the L to Iron Man back in season 1, and in this season, we had a Marvel vs. DC where the DC character voiced by him lost. That's honestly really hilarious. Aside from that, I think he did a pretty good job as a Batman voice too.
Yeah, he did. It's not like super gritty, like I'm Batman.
It's like a mix.
Like it's serious.
I'd argue it's like a deeper version of Kevin Conroy's voice, who's like the most iconic Batman voice actor. It's not bad at all, honestly. I'm surprised.
I quite like it. I quite like it.
Yeah, because Batman's had a lot of different voice actors throughout the show. Like, because he added voice cameo-wise in Winter Soldier vs. Red Hood, as well as Kent Williams voicing him in as Terry Support in Beyond vs. 2099. But I'd argue this is probably the best version, aside from, of course, them having to recycle Kevin Conroy's voice clip for Batman vs. Black Panther.
This is also Bruce's first episode dedicated to him, where he actually gets a voice.
Yeah.
In the first two, he just doesn't speak.
Yeah, first two,
Black
nothing.
Panther.
Black Panther vs. Batman, he recycled, I believe, Injustice voice clips. This time, he actually gets voice acting.
Mm-hmm.
So, overall, might as well ask, what would you give your ranking for this episode, Immortal?
I would honestly give it an 8 out of 10. It's really solid.
Yeah, I'd give mine a 7 out of 10, but it's very close to like 8 out of 10. Like, it's surprising.
So like honestly. A 7.5.
Yeah, 7.5, I guess, like, we meet in the middle. Like, 7.5 out of 10 is what we'd probably give this episode. Like, it surprises us, honestly, that, like we've gone over previously, they could have done a lot more, but I think what we got for this was pretty good. Obviously, when this first debuted, we weren't that excited, because, Batman's coming back for a fourth time, we're tired of this. But
it's a Marvel versus DC fight, again.
Iron Man's also a returning combatant. But
that I didn't mind, because I like Iron Man.
Yeah, it's Iron Man. But yeah, like, this episode had a lot of negatives going to it, especially since this was the first episode after the long break, so, we had a really long time to wait for this. But I'd honestly argue the payoff turned out pretty well. We got an overall serviceable episode. Like, I'd argue this is actually a high, above the half, in the better half of episodes we've gotten this season so far.
Yeah, I'd honestly agree with that.
With that said, I guess that pretty much wraps things up this time. Join us next time where we talk about the next episode, and Mortal has quite a few choice words to say about that one.
Yeah, just as some parting words from me, I would have heard anything for either combatant that wasn't each other.
I might have to put a swear warning in the next one, because I don't think there was a lot of swearing in this, but...
Don't worry, I won't curse up a storm.
Good, because I need to get monetized at some point or another. Anyways, with that said, thanks for joining me, Immortal.
No problem, thanks for having me. This was really fun.
Yeah, and like I said, we'll see you all next time. Bye!
See ya!